Welcome back, everyone. In this video, we will look at a new concept called nesting. So we will take this simple looking, but maybe a little bit long and maybe a little bit complicated if else branch, and we will rewrite it with using a concept of nesting. To do so, let's create a new method. And what I will do, I will use Eclipse IDE has an option to hide the method implementation. Hover over the line right in front of your method signature. In my case, it's line number 18, and I have a negative button here. I'll click it, and it highlights for me from 18 all the way down to line 42 that this is the method's body, method's block, right? So let me first copy this if branch or chained if, then I will minimize my method implementation or my method block. Also, I will minimize my comments. So I will open up some space in my class, within my class, and I will create a new method called public static void sensor2. This has the same signature as my original sensor. It accepts an int parameter. And then I will just, being a lazy programmer that I am, I will just paste my code, my source code from previous method, just for my reference. So what we did previously is our sensor takes, since this is a copy paste of our sensor method, I'll just go over and remind us what our sensor method did. Our sensor method took a number, right, accepted the int parameter, passed that int parameter in our if statement, and checked if that number is greater than 0. If that number was greater than 0, it printed out this is a positive number. If it was not, it would move on to the next branch, else if branch, and it will check whether the number is less than 0. If it is, great, it would stop it would just print out, it would just execute the else if block, print out this is a negative number, and that's it. However, if number is not positive, neither it is negative, it leaves us with a condition that the number is 0. Now, let's look at the same code from different perspective. Let's start typing. If number is greater than 0, I open my if block, I will say print out this is a positive number. Nothing special, nothing new. However, instead of else if, I'm going to open my else branch and open up some space here. And I'm going to nest in the other conditions here. Now, before I do nest in other conditions, what conditions are there that are left to nest? Condition that number is going to be positive is checked for. So we have 2 conditions left to check. So we still have 2 more conditions to check for. The number is negative, or or the number is 0. So we solved for these 2 conditions with an else if branch here. We checked for the number being negative, and then we created additional else branch saying that, okay, if the number is not negative, it's not positive, then it is obviously 0, right? So in this case, however, we're just going to add this logic inside else statement. Obviously, I can't say else if, can I? It will automatically, for example, else if true, just to show you, it will automatically give me an error, because if you remember in our previous, from our previous recordings, we always said that else if and else statements can only be used with an if statement. Neither can I say else here, because there needs to be if before this else. So what I can do here is I can create another if branch, another if statement. I will say if the number is less than 0, print out the number is negative, right? This is a negative number. Now, look at the conditional flow. Let's forget this code here. Look at the conditional flow of this if nested if statement. This is called nested. You see how I have one branch of if, and I have else branch, that within this else branch I'm nesting, I'm hosting another if statement. Now, let's say I pass in a positive number. I pass in value 5. I'm going to call sensor2 now. I pass in value 5. How the code gets executed is that it just comes here, verifies the number is greater than 0. Awesome. It prints out this is a positive number. Now, when I pass in -5, what happens is we come into this method, we execute this if statement, we check for number being more than 0. -5 is not more than 0, so this is wrong, this is false. Obviously, we're going to jump into else. And when we start executing else branch, we have another if condition. In this else branch, we start checking for number being less than 0, which is true. In that case, we're just going to print out this is a negative number. Now, what if I test for value 0? Is 0 greater than 0? False. So we will jump into else statement. Within else statement, when we start executing else statement, we have another if condition that we will check for. Is number less than 0? No, 0 is not less than 0. So this will not execute. So we'll just come out and that's it. There is nothing more to execute. We'll just get out of else block here and we'll get off the method and we will just execute nothing. Now to avoid that, we can add another if statement here. If number is equal to 0, system out, this is the number is 0, right? The number is 0. However, we said that this is a waste because we're checking for the same variable, right? And this would be a waste of our resources, and this would slow down our process, computer's processing speed. So let's do this. Instead of this, why don't we just type in else here, and we just say is the number is 0. Okay, so does this make sense? We checked for number being greater than 0, false. We automatically jumped into else statement, right? We checked them within else statement. We're starting to execute the else statement. We checked them for a number being less than 0. Is it less than 0? No. Then this if branch is not complete yet because this if statement has another branch that is else. So if this is not true, then this will be true. Okay, so that's how we're going to print the number is 0. So when I run this program now, when I execute it, I'm calling sensor2 method with the 0 value passed in. Let's pass in 5 as a value. It prints out positive, and back to what we got when we passed in 0, it printed out 0, and when we test for -5, it will print out negative. Okay, the same way you can nest within the if statement. Let's do this. Let's code for the same thing within if statement. We're gonna say if, but this is going to be a little bit tricky. If number is greater than or equal to 0. Why am I doing greater than or equal to? Because there are two conditions in this. There are two possible values in this condition. One value is the number is positive. Another potential value is that, another potential condition is that the number is 0. I will create my nested if branch. If number is equal to 0, print out is the number is 0. Otherwise, the number, this is a positive number. So I hope the flow is reasonably understandable. When I do if number is greater than or equal to 0, I have two conditions, two potential possible conditions. One condition is number is 0, because I want to exactly print out the 0 if the number is 0. And any other condition, if the number is not 0, is that number is going to be a positive. My else branch of my main if branch is going to check only for negative possibilities. This is a negative number. So in English, let me just, I will just comment this out. I will just use multi-line commenting here. So when a number is not zero, neither is it positive, there is only one outcome left. There is only one else condition left. The number is negative, correct? Now, if the number is zero or more than or greater than zero, there are two possible outcomes. One, the number is zero, or the number is greater than zero, which is positive. That's it. This is what this nested if does. Usually this kind of a nesting is not common, so I will comment this out, but we will keep it here for you to keep in mind that this sometimes happens. Usually this kind of a nesting is conducted. What happens is when you design a code, when you code for performance, you first of all code for values that you will return negative anyways. So you check for the when you develop a method, we will see it down the road. You check for negative values that might stop the execution of your method right away. So you want to check for potential terminations of your potential termination conditions. So you code them first so that your code doesn't get into this additional checks. Okay, so you use if statement that will that serves to potentially terminate this method to stop it running for further checks. And then with an else statement, you nest your other conditions that you like. Okay, if, for example, there is no need for termination, now I'm going to add additional logic. So this way of this practice is common. The second is not. This is just to demonstrate. Okay, the practice we used earlier is also common. This is easier way to understand. However, this can get long and clustered too. We will see a solution to that. Okay, but again, this is a common way. And since we mentioned, since we referred to terminating our conditions and our methods, we will look into that after the next video. So please stay tuned. And this is it for now. I will see you in our next video. Thank you for your time.